Recording. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the April 15, 2024 edition of the Victoria Centre Astro Cafe. It is my pleasure to welcome everybody, and I'd like to know what things people have to talk about. I have Dave Robinson gets to talk about the wonderful city machinations. Clayton Uyeda has a couple of really interesting things to bring up. Are there any other eclipse reports? For example, people who were on ships.
Yes,
Yeah, I can do something, Randy. It's John.
and I can as well, Joe Carr.
John and Joe, excellent. I'm really keen.
If you want me, I can do one too.
And Alex, you're going to report from Sherbrooke. Kathy, do you want to complain about the universe, or are you happy not to?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So, Chris, can we get anything from you? Space or RASC?
Oh, maybe a little RASC. I was up to a couple of things after the eclipse was over with, so I'll talk about those.
And Reg and David, do you want to talk about the VCO?
Yeah, I've got a sky shot in the west that I took that night.
Excellent. Peter Jedicke had he had a note saying that he had some stuff to show.
Peter, you're up. Okay. And I have a couple of things too. Let's see how time goes. Okay. So let us start with Dave Robinson.
Okay. So I don't know if you all saw the note from Randy today that the town city
Not
of
me.
yeah.
I read it, but I did not.
Anyway,
think-
Oak Bay has changed the decision from what the administration had originally recommended under pressure from residents of Uplands. For those who don't know, Uplands is that high scale, high end, high real estate section between here and the east side of Oak Bay. Originally, they had planned on changing the lighting in Uplands to produce modern, more dark sky friendly lighting than what they have now. But they got overruled by resident pressure. They're talking about taking the poles that are there now, making them taller, but not changing the type of light fixture that sits on top of the pole. I don't know if you've driven through Oak Bay, but what they have in there is a pole with a cast iron base that has some detailing on it, and sitting on the top of this thing is a white globe. And this is not what we would call modern lighting at all. They try to claim that it's historic lighting. Well, it's only history if it's older than me. And this stuff was this stuff was produced in the 60s.
Sure.
We used to call it back in the day when I was doing lighting design, we called them cheap ass Swedish globes. It was an inexpensive light fixture on top of a detail pole. The problem with it is that there is no light control at all from the lamp inside the globe, none, which means it distributes light evenly in every direction, which means upwards, downwards, sideways, in your neighbor's bathroom, bedroom, front yard, backyard. It makes a glare source for pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. It's terribly energy wasteful, and it certainly does nothing for the dark sky. It actually makes things worse. I don't know what we can do other than maybe start a letter writing campaign to Oak Bay Council saying this is unsupportable on the basis of energy, visibility, protection of pedestrians and motorists and cyclists. And it's going to disturb everybody's nighttime sleep anywhere near those things. It's just a disaster from the point of view of dark skies, or even from, say, I think from pedestrian safety and security.
I think that's where you should go,
Yeah.
because they won't care about it.
No.
but- Yeah,
You also
And it's certainly
said,
not historic. There are
Well,
all.
and the wildlife argument too, right?
Wildlife. If you want something historic, there are a lot of period style fixtures available now that will produce a much better controlled light output that'll improve visibility on the roads and stop going in people's bedrooms. I mean,
Mhm.
what else can you do?
Dave, how advanced is the decision?
Based on, I don't know, just based on what I saw today, I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody in Oak Bay at all yet.
Well.
I wonder if we should determine how far ahead it is and you know, certainly make our feelings known to the mayor and council and perhaps go to the media with it. At least a letter to the editor, or perhaps something more than that. You know, the media might appreciate a break from people whining about Pandora Street or the bicycle lanes.
You want to shed a little light on the subject, yes.
Right.
I think we should approach the mayor directly rather than blindside them with the media right off the
I think
bat.
that's the place to start.
Yeah, but we should be ready for that.
Yeah, it sounds, from what I read today, it sounds to me like they may have had a decent design for the lighting replacement there, but they got overruled by the Uplands residents. Who, of course,
Okay, what was it you were reading?
aren't exactly poor people.
What exactly were you reading? Is this an internal report or something?
The email that Randy circulated.
No, I did not circulate it, so I'm
Somebody
going to find it.
Yeah.
Because
some other Randy.
Yeah.
I know the source of the email. It was me.
Oh, was you?
I
guess I didn't read the
I
header properly.
received it from
from Erica, that's it.
Erica Franzman from UVic this morning and immediately sent it on to you guys. So.
Okay, so I'm going to share this.
And I can understand you being concerned because it's gonna give them a bright spot in the southern sky.
Well, right now, those lights, I think that they should go with those lights as long as. they
Alex,
only
can
put
you put the,
15-watt bulbs in there.
so, Tom TJ? So this was Sunday, so this Sunday,
Yesterday.
they've decided to replace the 100-year-old streetlights at the same time.
I doubt that those lights are 100 years old because they've got high pressure sodium in them. And like I say, if they're historic, if they're younger than me.
So who is Tom? Who has been talking to the city hall?
They vetoed the staff recommendation Oak Bay,
Yeah.
and it's against their official community plan. And against the BC Ministry of Transportation guidelines.
Okay, so definitely there's lots of grounds for communicating. And you know,
Yeah.
you Dave are the right person to
Okay, well, I guess I'll try and start the ball rolling here. I'll look at the email closer and see who I should contact. Because I certainly understand the observatory's concern.
Can you get the okay up there?
Yeah, and we have our council meeting coming up, and that would, we could take a formal position on it or something like that.
That might be a good idea as well.
Yeah, it all depends whether the time frame is today or over the next couple of weeks.
Just-
Yeah, our council meeting is a week tomorrow, so.
Right.
But
Geez,
just from the
28th,
view of a
23rd,
retired
yeah.
lighting professional, this is crap. That's the easiest way to explain it. It's crap.
Mhm.
But-
Okay, so, thank you for bringing that up. It's important. Okay, let's have some eclipse reports. So I'm really keen to hear about the ship. So this is the John and Joe show. Do we have Bill online? And Bill's there also. Do we have Miles? No Miles. Anyway, what happened off in the Pacific Coast?
Well, I,
Well, since the silence has greeted us, I'll go first. Just let me do the share thing.
Ah,
Okay, so just let me get my control up here. There we go. So John McDonald, myself, and Bill Weir and his wife were aboard the Discovery Princess. It went from LA to LA and cruised down as far as Manzanillo, as you can see by the map there, and back, about a 10-day cruise. And it's a typical Mexican Riviera cruise. But this one had a wrinkle. After the stop in Mazatlan, they cruised 135 miles offshore from that port and into the path of totality on the appointed hour and the appointed day. It was a pretty sweet way to see solar eclipse, for sure.
Joe,
Yes.
was it completely filled with astronomers, or were there other cruisers?
Surprising, I certainly don't have a number, but surprisingly, I would say the majority of the ship was at least very interested in eclipses, if not eclipse chasers. There was a lot of confirmed eclipse chasers on board for sure. Bill Kramer is one that comes to mind. He's basically has about 50 eclipses to his name, and he's led lots of expeditions and stuff like that. I managed to bump into him. But I also managed to have my picture taken with our Victoria Center members. So Bill, of course, is a public outreach expert, and he was on deck specking out a good spot. Hopefully we'll hear from him, and he can tell us more about his personal experience on there, because to be honest, we connected with him a couple of times, but other than that, it's a big ship and it's hard to connect with people. John and I were across the hall from each other's, and we were traveling together more or less, so we had separate cabins, but we were traveling together, so it was a lot easier for us to stay connected. And as you can see, we had eclipse cookies. The pastry chef on board was just an amazing operation, and they had good old eclipse cookies. Sort of brought back memories of Diane Bell. That was my breakfast, eclipse breakfast. Those cookies were hot items, but they made a whole whack of them, so they had them pretty well the whole day. Our cruise director, he was certainly rocking his custom-made mask / solar glasses. Everyone was issued solar glasses on board the ship, including the crew, and the crew had time off to see it at the appointed hour. So they shut down most services during the eclipse. So everyone was very happy about that. A lot of the passengers were giving feedback to the cruise director to make sure that happened, but they already had that well in place. Speaking of Princess Cruises and planning, the planning was amazing. They really did a great job. As our cruise director told us, almost every day they have been planning for this for the last 2 years. So it was great. They handed, as said, they handed out eclipse classes to everyone. So we all have our little souvenir. You can see the lots of information was given out to every passenger and every crew member. The timing, as you can see, was all set up on the left-hand side. They had decided which way they were going to point the ship a long time ago. And I lucked out and managed to get a balcony facing the sun during the appointed day. Obviously, half the ship did not, and half the ship did. So I was happy about that. John and I were certainly prepared to go up and join the crowds on the top decks, and the top decks were cleared of all chairs, and they had lots of room up there from what I understand. But we did not go up there during the eclipse time. We decided to use my balcony, which was a nice quiet area, and it was easy to do whatever we needed to do with our gear there. And unlike 2017, I did not get distracted, and everything worked as I expected it to. So this was good. Good step forward. We had 2 experts on board. You can see the lady with the thingies poked into her hair there on the third person in there. She was a professor that had a great outreach personality. She talked to people, made sure everyone was well briefed on safety for viewing an eclipse. And the guy in the middle has a doctorate, and he was doing natural history talks on dinosaurs and rocks and space stuff. And the cruise director is on the left there. But the important person, of course, was standing in the middle of the stage there, and that's the captain of the ship, Tony Regero. And he was all in on this, and he made sure everything worked perfectly, and it did. It was a wonderful experience. So the captain showed us these things, these maps beforehand, and this was his plan. He had looked very carefully at the weather. You can see on the left there, and he had found a spot with historic cloud cover of only 4% of the time. And it was off Mazatlan, and it was in totality. And the rest of the area around there was around 49%. So there was some risk if the bridge officers had not paid very close attention to the weather patterns in that area. And of course, obviously, you still have to react at the last minute if need be, but that didn't have to happen as it turned out. It all worked out perfectly. And as you can see on the right-hand map, he told us exactly how the ship was oriented. So it was pointed back to the northeast, back to Mazatlan. I've been on 2 previous ships that were under the moon's shadow, and they both proceeded underway during the eclipse along the eclipse path at a slow speed so they could use the stabilizers. This time, the captain said they would drift, and we did drift. We did not get underway again until the eclipse was over, but it all worked out beautifully, and the ship was very stable. Seas were calm. It was lovely. I had a very special treat and a good omen, I would say. The night before, as we left Mazatlan, you can see the top right corner, the top right picture there was taken by Roland Shen, who from RASC Calgary Center. He was on the beach or yeah, on the beach in Mazatlan at a resort and saw our ship sail away. So he took that cell phone picture, which he sent to me, which I thought was great. Anyway, we had a green flash the night before. And I would say the most spectacular green flash I have ever witnessed. It was beautiful, right from my balcony. Couldn't ask for anything better. So that was the good. Pardon me?
How long did it last? I see it in the bottom.
The
left.
green flash lasts. The actual flash lasts about a second. So this lasted about a second. Obviously, this takes probably a couple of minutes, maybe a minute, as little as a minute, when you can actually see green fringes. But the flash, of course, happens just as the sun dips below the horizon.
Oh, your photos, which are just remarkable, disproved the theory that I had heard that it was the tip of the sun being seen through
Ooh, what's happening?
the shoulder of the water, the
Joe, are
ocean.
you talking?
No, this is
No, I'm sorry.
That's
this
all
is-
of it.
Lost one of our
Oliver.
screens. We're out of business. Just hold on
Oh,
a second,
well.
okay?
okay. We can talk amongst ourselves.
What is going on?
Yeah, Oliver, I've witnessed the
was
green
the green
flash
flash.
probably about half a dozen times, and I've managed to photograph it twice.
Oh dear.
But
That's fantastic that you caught it, Joe. That's just amazing.
We
Yeah.
sorry guys, we're doing this Chrisless.
okay,
And,
can you mute yourself so we can at least talk to ourselves?
no signal coming on.
Just flip the switch on the microphone.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yeah, we're back.
Okay.
We lost the main screen for a minute.
Okay,
The main tech backup is not here. Okay, should I carry on?
yes, please.
Okay. So John, that was John's setup. He basically had a very similar setup to me. He'll talk about it, I'm sure. My setup was a Canon R5 with a 100 to 500 lens, IdentifView, Class A solar scope, or solar filter. I was also running a little portable weather station, which you can see up on the rail. And I also was running a GoPro, which took a time-lapse video, which I'll show you later. And of course, there's a lot, even though we were sort of isolated compared to all the great kerfuffle going on the decks, looking down, as you can see, there's every balcony was fully occupied, and people were inviting others to join them on the side of the ship that was favored. So it was a great time was had by all. This is a marine traffic map this at the same morning that we were on Totality's track. This blue square here is our ship. The Ruby Princess, the Zandam, and the Koningsdam were all within 3 or 4 nautical miles of each other in this area. If I zoomed this map out a little further, there was a distinct track of ships along the track of Totality coming out of Mazatlan.
Mhm.
Of course, some of the marine traffic didn't care. They were busy hauling freight. So this is between C1 and C2. There's the first notch, of course, just coming out of the sun, and the various phases of eclipsing. Managed to get this last one here just a second or two before I had to take the filter off, and go to totality. During partial phases, strange things happen, as we know. This is looking down at the deck below a deck chair. So if you have leaves, tree leaves, you have a sieve, you have anything with holes in it, you will get a projection of the eclipsed sun. And you may notice that the eclipsed sun is less focused in this direction than in this direction. And when you go past C3 to C4, it's the opposite. So there's some interesting optical effects. Also, people, of course, were noticing the temperature drop, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And also the shadows sharpen. The lighting gets weird. I can't describe it any better than that, but people notice it. And there are a lot of human reactions start to happen and emotions float to the surface at that point, and strange things happen. I'll leave it at that. I'm sure some of the other speakers might talk about that. So totality, we had a lovely treat. Binocular views were just spectacular. You can see we had lots of really beautiful prominences. This eclipse was a little harder on the Bailey's beads. I've seen some photos with Bailey's beads, but it was a lot trickier because of the geometry. The moon actually blocked out more of the sun this time than it has in other eclipses. And this is C3 diamond ring. So this is at the last of the totality. I'm really happy with this photo because, of course, I managed to get both the proms, the diamond ring, and the plasma flowing off the sun all at once. The photo on the left is just a cell phone shot off the balcony during eclipse. And the photo on the right is the same. But that's between C3 and C4. So that is during partial eclipse as the sun is revealing more and more and going back to a normal configuration, you might say. So the photo on the left shows Venus. I did not see the comet. I did not see Jupiter. I had that little diagram that I was very hopeful that we would see more of. But as you can see, the sky was actually fairly light for this eclipse. And so Venus was the only one I saw. I'm not calling the other people liars that have photographs posted with other celestial objects beside the eclipsed sun. I'm just saying that's all I saw. Okay, let's do a time lapse and see if I can get this working. There we go. It worked right away. So this is before and after totality compressed. Not the whole thing, just near totality.
Joe, what was the duration of totality?
Ooh,
Oh, I
It
can see
was
it.
it was 4.5 minutes. Quite a long one.
You could see the edge of the shadow approaching you from
Did
the
you
right.
see that? Yeah.
That's
That's
really
why
dramatic.
that's why I run the time lapse, because sometimes I miss that visually and I have to catch it later. We'll run it one more time.
That's lovely.
A lot happens in 4.5 minutes, and most eclipses are shorter than that. Some people were claiming they saw eclipse shadows, the shadow bands running through the clouds, and I don't know. Oh, there was right
Well,
there
isn't there-
is Jupiter. How about that? I've looked at this several times and I just spotted that now.
The shadow did pass on the lower left corner
Okay,
at the end
I'll
of
have
the
it.
totality, very clearly.
Yeah, I'll have another look at it later. That's great. Yeah.
It's surprising you didn't see Jupiter, because I thought it was pretty prominent, and what did other
Yeah.
people?
I'm sure a lot of people saw it. I didn't see it myself. I certainly had binoculars up there and I was looking, but you know, lighting conditions are different wherever you're observing from.
Oh.
And we were on a white colored ship, which could have been part of the factor. We were in the tropics, which could be another factor. And as you can see, we did not have perfectly clear skies. So we have some reflections bouncing around. This is sort of the charm and the hazard of eclipses. Everybody experiences it a little differently, and everybody is observing it from different locations. It's cool to be able to compare notes these days. Okay, so we all got our solar eclipse viewing certificate, of course, from the captain with the latitude, longitude, and all that good stuff. And that was very nice of them. And my temperature readings I took here were basically just showed a 10-degree drop during the eclipse in temperature, which was pretty dramatic. Everyone on board that I talked to mentioned that it was colder. And from the reports last week, people even under clouds were reporting quite cold conditions. That was kind of interesting. And I think that is it for me. I will stop the share. And John can jump in.
Yeah, I'll take it from here if you like.
Go for it.
Joe has shown very nice examples of what we saw. Okay, so I just want to show a couple of these pictures because most of them you've seen from what Joe showed you, but there's a couple of things that I want to show you. First of all, I made a little thing that said just eclipse shadows by poking holes in a piece of paper and shining them on the screen. I've been thinking about what the early peoples saw when eclipses started, and you can get these kind of images of the sun, even from the sun coming through tree leaves and whatnot. So it strikes me that they might have been able to see that without eclipse glasses and whatnot and actually see what was going on. So I thought that was kind of neat. This is just one example of the minimal amount of food that we were given on the ship. They actually had a special little cafe that was just for special desserts. If you wanted to really pig out on desserts, you could do that. Joe and I were going to, but it looked too overwhelming. We just sat and watched people. It was really fun, people watching. They got either pieces of cake like this or giant sundaes about double the height of the cake there.
Ouch.
And this picture is from Joe's veranda, just showing the bridge where the crew was doing such a good job of taking us to where we needed to be to see the eclipse. So the other thing that I want to show you is I've got just a quick sequence of what was going on. And so this is somewhat similar to Joe. I haven't bothered to color these pictures yet. They were taken through a Beta screen, so they're white light. And you can see the sequence. And this is just before totality. And then in totality, I had actually planned to take a sequence of different exposures. And I managed to get myself flustered and didn't do it right. So I just got a single image, just one. But I've milked it for all I can get out of it to show what the thing was like. And then, of course, I got a picture somewhat like Joe's. His is certainly better, but it was really neat that in this picture you can see the Bailey's beads, prominences. And as Joe said, the Bailey's beads were really tricky because the moon apparent size was just quite large compared to the sun's. So the one other thing I want to talk about is just that what things looked like. I had been to 2 other total eclipses before, and I was quite insistent that I really wanted to see things this time. So that's why I didn't take so many pictures. And there certainly are things to see. There's so many things to see that 4 minutes goes by in what feels like 10 seconds. It's just quite amazing. But one thing that I found really interesting, because we were at sea, we had sort of twilight all around 360 degrees. And because we were sort of exposed, we weren't in a field with trees around us or buildings. That twilight made where we were bright enough that we could sort of see what we were doing without any trouble. But if you looked straight up overhead, it was pretty dark, pretty black. And I can imagine that if you were in trees or in a place with buildings all around, it would have looked much, much darker than what we saw. That was really kind of interesting. They say that every eclipse experience is different, and I can certainly see it. All 3 of mine have been very different. And but all were wonderful. I can remember going in the elevator after the eclipse and hearing people say, when's the next one? Where is it? And how do we get there? So they were pretty excited. And that's it for me. So I will stop sharing and you can go to the next person.
Well, Bill, can you tell us what it was like on the top deck?
Oh, it was a party. So I was up there probably around, so I didn't deal with breakfast. The night before I went down to the sandwich shop and grabbed 2 sandwiches and threw them in my fridge and some water so that I could get up on deck early. Because they first of all told us right from the beginning, they don't want any tripods up on the top deck. And after a week ahead, talking to everybody who talked about tripods, we all decided, screw it, we're putting our tripods up. And we went up early and set them. It was just a ring of tripods all along the railing, all along, because the people just looking, it would keep them away from us because they could be all over the deck. And it worked out really well. So I took actually my PST and a really short 80 millimeter Apple refractor. And actually I spent a lot of the week just wandering around on the decks with it set up, doing outreach and stuff. I don't have photos to share. I do have photos but I'm not gonna share them. You can find them from me at the next meeting. And it was weird because I wasn't really wanting to go on a cruise. It's like the last thing on one of my lists. But I actually decided early on I was going to immerse myself and make it a thing. And so there were the two experts that were there, the sort of talkers that gave many shows. There was Matt, what's his last name? I've forgotten it now. Matthew Wider. He's actually the binocular column guy in Sky and Telescope, and he's also a paleontologist. I spent a lot of time with him because I gave him a hard time for taking away Gary Saronic's job, even though we didn't. So we spent quite a bit of time together because on many nights they did sort of a night sky viewing thing for about 45 minutes up on the top deck. And I would take my refractor up there and we had a lot of fun. And so on the day of, I had my refractor stacked on top of, I had my PST stacked on top of my refractor. And so that there was the H alpha and the white light, and I had them both set up so it was really easy for people to view. And we showed a lot of people the eclipse building through that. And then at the moment of totality, just before it, I took off the PST because the thing that I found was like, I'm on a camera tripod with a light head on it, pointed, at 68 degrees up. And so I took the PST off so I wouldn't have to deal with any weight things. And threw my finder on, my red light finder, because one of my goals during the eclipse was to try and see the comet, which there was a slight glimpse of it because I lined up on Jupiter, which was, I don't know how come you couldn't see it, Joe. It was bright. And so I could line my red dot up on Jupiter, actually see the 4 moons, and then span it around to try and find the comet, which, because I'd been seeing it a couple of nights before, I knew pretty much exactly where it would be. And but then got back to the corona with I put the largest eyepiece I could at the lowest magnification, and it looked just like that photo of John's where the corona was so flower-like. It was just amazing. And showed a few people that there was actually one of the ship's photographer. He was hanging around us because he was really enjoying looking through my scope. And so, he looked through it. I think he took a few photos with his cell phone to send off to his girlfriend. And it was so much fun. The actual cruise itself, like Joe said, they really went all out. These people that came to do talks, they gave a couple every day. Matt, he has a few things. He's a dinosaur guy. He is an observer, and he also collects meteorites. So he gave talks on like meteors killing the dinosaurs and observing. It was really fabulous. And Shelley Bonus, if you want to read up about a crazy, interesting lady, look up Shelley. Is Marjie on here? She's a woman you need to look up because she is absolutely amazing. She works she's a prof at UCOA. She's up on Mount Wilson all the time. She has a very varied history. She knew personally and hung out a lot with John Dobson and the sidewalk astronomy stuff. And there's other personal things in her history that are just a trip. I actually had lunch with her one day. I looked up and she was sitting right next to me at an adjacent table. And so I started talking to her and she called me over. And so we spent probably about an hour and a half together babbling about doing outreach and stuff like that. It was just a lot of fun that way. And the nighttime viewing, I just wish they'd left the lights off longer than they did because it would have been better because it must have been like on a timer. And showed a lot. I've dragged my refractor up there a couple of times. Now, the two photography guys, did you notice that we barely had, I know we were drifting, But I have this strange feeling that we weren't actually totally drifting because we seem to be tracking the sun in azimuth. Because I almost never had to adjust my scope other than altitude to track the sun as
Yeah,
it was going up.
I did see some propulsion wake. So
Yeah.
they definitely had the thrusters on. I don't think he was drifting. He probably referred to it as drifting, but they were slightly underway.
The
Yeah,
boat was,
he wasn't using the main thruster at the back, but he was certainly doing some slight maneuvering.
he was
Yeah.
rotating, he was rotating the boat. Because
Yeah.
A little
The
bit,
bo-
yeah.
Well, those
I only
azipods, of
really-
course, he can point them in 360 degrees. So he was definitely using them to keep
Yeah.
the ship on the azimuth that he promised.
Yeah, it was magic because it was
Yeah.
like because I was really expecting trouble, and I brought this other head that has like adjusters,
Right.
and I didn't put it on because I thought I'm going to need to move it around a lot. And
Yeah.
then the next day when I was up, it was just, I don't know, it was so easy to keep track of things. I
Yeah.
imagine for all the photographers, it made their life so much easier.
It was great. The previous two sailings that I was observed eclipses from, they were underway. They were both doing about 6 knots or so, and I had to contend with deck vibration, which is not hard because you have image stabilization with cameras and lenses. But on this sailing, there was no vibration. It was really slow, but you're right. It wasn't dead. It wasn't dead in the water.
But the way it tracked, it was so cool because I was expecting to not be able to show anybody because of the fact that we'd be moving around so much and having to sort of freestyle.
Yeah.
And I could just step away from the eyepiece and just say, okay, have a look. And somebody would have a look. And I'd say, is it still there? And they'd say, well, it's kind of going out. Oh, wait, it's coming back. And that was probably a bit of a roll because it would kind of do this circle around the inside of the eyepiece at times. But most times it was just like I was on the concrete somewhere, just showing people.
If you have another look at my time lapse video, you'll see we were remarkably stable.
Yeah.
And for me, I focused, I centered the sun just before totality. And everything I got after that, including the corona and the diamond ring, I didn't move anything. It was just there in the frame.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
I see Dave Payne.
Well, I just wanted to remark that, when you're drilling wells offshore, you have to geoposition to stay exactly over the hole you're making. And with the thrusters, they can keep, within a meter of where they need to be, just with these positional thrusters. So it's highly exact what they can do.
They use GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought because it was just remarkable.
Being a
And
new
so
ship
you-
as well, of course, it is, it has the latest technology, so it probably is more stable than older ships as well.
So you got 10 degrees drop. There was a
Yes.
girl up in our area, this young woman from, I don't know, she's probably about Nathan's age, 13, 14. And she got 13 degrees. She's from Seattle, so I imagine that was Fahrenheit. But I thought that was pretty cool that she did that. And then she sent it off to NASA and then got a response.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Right away. It was very cool. I was talking to, I think it was the next day I ran into her and she was showing me this thing. Oh, it was actually at one of the talks and she was showing Shelley what she had done. And then she showed me and it was really cool because she had that same sort of a graph of watching the sun change, and
Yep.
it was
I'm so
neat seeing a
glad-
young person.
I'm so glad we got this detailed report from the ship. Thank you, you three.
No problem.
Okay. I'm gonna move on now to Alex.
Okay, so I went to Sherbrooke. I drove from Vancouver all the way to Quebec, Sherbrooke. So,
That's
and I drove back,
Oh, my goodness.
How many days?
10?
I left on the April the 2nd, arrived on the 13th, that was a Saturday. In Sherbrooke, but I was not exactly in Sherbrooke, it's like what we have here, Saanich, Central Saanich, Luxonville, Quebec, but it's part of Sherbrooke. And I was there, so I only got one room for one night because all hotels, motels were booked. The next day I couldn't get nothing, then I would have stayed in the car. But in that case, I set up my telescope the day before on a lot, which just a gravel, supposed to have been a house that burnt down. So I was sitting there and told people that you can look at the sun through the telescope, and then someone came by and said, oh, maybe a friend of mine has a B&B, maybe. And then he phoned, but didn't receive a phone call. And then he phoned a friend, and the friend said, you can come and stay in my place. It was a farmhouse.
Wow.
So on the Monday, I set up again, and I had problems that frustrated with the telescope. So I had to fix that. Something with power was not right. I had bought new batteries the day before. I put them in, nothing worked. Then I went to the coffee shop where I had breakfast. Took my welding stuff and all that stuff in found the plug and I was welding the cable back on, and later I figured out what was going on. Only 0.69 volts was going in the controller. Solved that, so that all worked. So it was basically tracking the telescope. And it was perfectly clear. No clouds. It was windy. And then when the solar eclipse happened, the wind died down and the temperature went down. And then doing the solar eclipse, I was fooling around with stupid cameras instead of looking at my, no. But I believe there was the sun. On one side, red was shooting out. Up on that corner was Venus. On this corner, I believe, was Jupiter.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was right. So that I saw. And then I wanted to put use my binoculars. The time was about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. When I wanted to do that, the moon went away, so the sun showed up, then I would have blinded my eye. So I missed that with the binoculars. But I believe I saw the red thing on this side, I saw Venus, and I saw Jupiter, and I didn't saw black sky. I would say dark blue.
Yeah.
Well, that's my report. And the same day, so I stayed. So before, when the moon comes in, solar total eclipse, after keep on going till after 4:30. Before 5 o'clock, I packed up the car and I left to go to Pembroke, Ontario. Was a traffic after traffic on the highway. It was not funny.
Oh, my goodness.
It should have taken me 4 hours to get to Pembroke. I was there after 12
Oh.
and stayed at the same hotel that I found when I came east. I went there
Going west.
and going west. So I had to go on Monday. I couldn't go on Tuesday. I wouldn't have been here on the 13th. So I left on the Monday, went to Pembroke, and then wanted to have breakfast the next day. 7 o'clock is usually breakfast. And then she says, no cook. But they gave me coffee and I asked orange juice. I didn't have to pay anything for that because there was no cook, so then I left sooner. And then I kept going west.
That's a
What an
great report.
adventure.
Yeah, and then the longest trip was from,
Saskatchewan.
no, from Manitoba to Cranbrook, BC. So I went from
That's a long day.
Portage La Prairie all the way to Cranbrook. 1,464 kilometers, over 14 hours.
Yep.
That's as good as my friend Bob, who's like a marathon driver. He'll do 800 in a day, but 1,000 is really pushing.
And that was-
Okay,
the reason I could have done that was because I had cruise control.
yep. Thank you.
Welcome.
And now we're going to go from the Pacific all the way to the Atlantic. Clayton, tell us about your New Brunswick
I
experience.
thought mine was the polar opposite to an all-inclusive cruise in the southern hemisphere. You got me way beat. I traveled from Victoria to Pedersen to Moncton, which was around 7 hours. We had planned this, my wife Jo, from the last eclipse, total eclipse in Victoria was over 90%. That's years ago. That's when my mother was still alive, and she asked me if I wanted to go, and I went, yeah, sure, you know, I mean. And I thought, so I looked at the weather reports from New Brunswick in April. And it's cloudy, naturally, it's cloudy, but we thought, what the heck, I found a place in close to the center of the totality zone in New Brunswick. As I thought, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, where are you gonna get a hotel? The guy one of the persons that stayed at the lodge said that they were charging $1,000 in Niagara for a hotel.
They were.
They were just bleeding everybody for it.
And that,
So, I managed to book a place years and years in advance in close to Miramachi. It's in Silgers. So we went from Victoria to Pedersen, snowing. Pedersen to Moncton, 3 o'clock in the morning, clouds, Friday clouds, Saturday clouds, Sunday clouds. I'm looking at Astrotherics and it's saying sunny, it's gonna cure up Sunday night. And you know, it's just really hard to believe, but sure enough, Sunday night it cleared up. I brought up I couldn't bring the gear, and I didn't want to, because I made the mistake before of trying to record something. It was a Roger Waters concert in Tacoma, and I brought a camera and I missed the concert because I was trying to take pictures. So I brought a cheap plastic tripod and a wide angle. And I was thinking it was going to be night, so I set it up for a 30-second exposure and clear skies in the night, and got Orion and tried. I don't know how you focus, except by trial and error, but I kind of fiddled around trial and error to try to focus. And I was thinking, I'm going to get a long 30-second exposure shot. I thought it was going to be nighttime, like when the eclipse happened, and I would maybe get a shot of the comet, which was apparently could be visible. And so Sunday night cleared up, and then Sunday morning, cloudy, 20%. Looking at astrospheres on both sides of the eclipse, 20% cloud, 20% cloud. It's supposed to be clear by 3 for the eclipse, and sure enough, I was convincing the people in the cabinet. It was about 140 miles north of Moncton. We rented a car, and it was nowhere near what you drove. But for me, that was hell. And then another 30 kilometers west from Miramachi to Silgers, and it's this beautiful wooden log cabin. And we tried to go for the opposite experience, where it was just me and my wife Jo and nobody around. And so we got up there, and yeah, Sunday I was convincing people it's cloudy, 20% cloud, but even that's a miracle. But I'm telling them, no, like these clouds are going to be gone apparently by 3 o'clock. And sure enough, it cleared blue skies at 3. We found a site right by the lodge, this wooden lodge by the Miramachi River. This historical museum, First Nations museum. We found a trail And there's a 10-minute walk down this trail, around this snow, down these wooden steps, 3 flights of wooden steps on this lookout. Doing more, almost bushwhacking till we got to the river, and there was nobody there, and we got a sight in. And I set up the camera and just on the tripod and set it up for 30 seconds, just completely blew up. I hope I didn't blow up my sensors, but I did manage to get a shot at 1/250th of a second. But just, it was jaw dropping, like, I think you guys were saying this, but I thought it was gonna be night from what I heard. I saw Jupiter, but there's no way I could see the comets. We brought binoculars for it. I didn't see any stars, and it turned to like twilight. All there were like ice blocks around us and the Miramachi River trickling down. We had spotted another place a little bit further down, close to the lodge, down this mud road, and decided not to do that because I saw some people walking up from there, and I thought, no, there's going to be people down there, so I recommended it to these other people that we two families. You guys didn't have that, because they didn't know, they were like looking out there like, I don't know where it is, and so I showed them the apps and stuff to get a view, but we scoped this out before. It was a family, and it was Micmacs, and their daughter was like 12 to 13 years old. She had taken it upon herself to learn the traditions, and she held the smudging ceremony for them. They were so proud of it. So we were a little bit further up, but we got some of the sweetgrass and tobacco smudging, and there was another elder who apparently went down there that road too, and they were drumming. So that's all we heard was the drumming. Got a bit of the smudging, just me and my wife, and the trees and the river and the ice, and it was jaw dropping. Yeah, I still have it imprinted in my mind.
That's
like
a wonderful story.
Brainstem.
That is such a great report. Clayton, you have other news to report.
Oh, quickly, yeah, well, when we were down there, I hadn't heard from John in like a year, and I got a
John who?
John Guillen from Victoria High School.
Right.
And so he told me that you know, it'd be great if we got together to move the equipment. They're back in Vic now and organize the astronomy stuff. But what he was saying that we're trying to organize with JJ, Dr. JJ Cavaliers with the Tino Recon, and he seed me into a conversation with him. And the Tino Recon is off now, but
So sorry, Tino
Recon.
Translate that.
Trans-Neptunian objects. He was working, it's a bunch of all the way down from, I think, Texas, all the way up to into Canada. Set of telescopes to look at occultations of these asteroids, the trans-Neptunian objects. And so we were hoped to be a part of that. And he suggested we get this telescope, and we got the funding from it was Chuck Brown, who I believe is an alumni with Vic High, who worked for the Fermi lab. Anyways, we got this huge telescope, and we're ready to set it up and work with it. And he contacted JJ, and apparently that's off. But what happened is JJ said that he's got funding from NASA to work on Jupiter Trojans. And he says the success rate for the applications are much better for these objects. And it's apparently in alignment with their Lucy mission. Maybe, I don't know anything about this, but the bottom line is that our students, the Vic High students, will be able to work on this NASA collaboration. And we've got 2 dates to set up with JJ to start doing the dry runs. I think one target is in April 29th and the other one's May 10th, hoping for clear skies. But I think that's pretty exciting.
And you'll do that from your observation deck.
Yeah, hopefully they got some shielding for that, but I just kind of took a step backward after last time trying to organize that stuff. But even I think without the shielding, JJ was saying that they were doing it from parking lots. So with the camera that he has and everything. Yeah.
That's
So I'm
great
pretty
news.
excited for the students at the time.
Do you want some RASC assistance or is there
Well, I
enough?
thought we tried that to get some assistance as far as what type of design for that, to stop, to mitigate the light pollution, then we tried with the lighting with. And they were saying, yeah, of course we'll change the lighting, we can do that, and then at the end they said, no, it's already dark sky compliant, it's like, why did you tell me you could do this? So that, yeah,
He didn't want resident flack from changing the lights.
but anyways, it's happening, apparently.
That's fantastic.
It's really exciting for the students.
Is it aimed at the, the entire high school, student body?
For all the
Yeah,
students?
like grade 9 to grade 12?
Well, we started an astronomy, kind of a program there. Through some funding, got a course, it's astronomy 11, unfortunately, it's just an elective, but,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's wonderful.
But if anybody, I'm going to, hopefully, if they do this, I'll be helping with the club and I'll be trying to get some, for some imaging, maybe, if any students are interested. We've already done some, imaging up there and we know it's possible to get, like M51 and stuff, and now with like filters and we'll be able to take pictures of galaxies.
Great news. Okay, let's go to Peter. Peter Jedicke, you still there?
Yes,
Oh,
I
you're-
am. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Good. Can you see my map?
It's
Yeah.
up now.
Good. Yeah, I don't have any pictures to show, but I'll just give a quick report for sake of completeness. This is the eclipse path through central Texas. We chose to drive down there simply because we'd made our minds up already a year ago, because that's where the climate predictions said we had the best chance of having cloud-free skies without going to Mexico. All due respect to Joe and the gang that went down to Mazatlan, but that was not going to happen for me. So I wanted to get as close to the southwest corner of Texas as I could. And it turns out that a good friend lives where the arrow points. This is a little square box. You folks probably all recognize the website. This is Xavier Jubier's interactive eclipse mapping program. So you click on a spot and it tells you the circumstances. So you see we had 4 minutes and 24 seconds of total solar eclipse. I tried to position it. I did the best I could. It's a big box there. Wish it could have been a little smaller on the map, but you can just see below the map, below the circumstances text box is the city of Kerrville. And so where our friends live is probably about a half hour's drive, actually. Deceivingly short distances on a map of Texas turn into long drives. It's the way Texas is, of course. Anyway, so that's about a half-hour drive outside of Kerrville, and you can see it's about an hour and a half drive from San Antonio along Interstate 10. So good mobility, and we kind of thought that if there were clouds in the area, we might be able to move even at the last minute and get a chance to see things. And I do have reports from a number of folks and other locations, even like newspaper reports, pretty much all the way from the Mexican border all the way up to the north edge of this map and even beyond. I deliberately kept the map as close as I could just for the sake of showing it to you. But you all know Dallas is up there a little to the northeast, and you can see Austin is almost entirely within the path of totality. Anyway, so the forecast, as you heard when we were listening to the mentions of New Brunswick, the forecast was absolutely miserable for like the whole week before. It was saying that Texas was going to be completely blotto by Monday, April 8th. And I didn't know what to do about it. We were having a party anyway. We were with friends, and that was kind of important to us. So in a way, we were kind of committed to just staying where we were put. And sure enough, every day, the forecast for tomorrow would be cloudy and overcast. And then tomorrow would come and the overcast would break up and, we'd be able to see the sky and, for hours on end, you'd have blue sky. So we were just kind of hoping the same thing would happen. So when Monday came along, it did stay overcast towards noon. The partial phase started a little bit afternoon in these parts. So it did stay overcast. We sat out and watched it. There were plenty of breaks in the clouds. That's the good news. So, like every minute or two, we'd catch a few seconds glimpse of the total of the partial phase. And then maybe every 2 or 3 minutes, we'd see it for 20 seconds or half a minute. If we wanted to, we could take a picture, look through telescope, and then totality, same thing. It was overcast, but there were little breaks. Every 20 seconds or so, you'd see it for 1 second. There'd be a cloud passing over. So I'm going to put it in the win column and say I saw this eclipse. But yeah, it's not the same thing as having it in a perfectly blue sky so that you can kind of just relax and not worry about whether you're going to have to be dodging sucker holes. But in the end, great experience. Not as long a drive as going from Victoria to all the way to the East Coast. But we did drive down for the sake of mobility and just because we kind of love driving through the US and checking out the countryside, and it's always an adventure. So that's where we stood. And in the end, thanks to the wonders of modern technology and even, what you guys did with, I was reading posts from Joe, and something like about 100 different people were kind of on my list. And I don't know if I can make a map of the entire eclipse path from the waters off Mazatlan all the way to Newfoundland. But between RASC members and other contacts, I got an awful lot of reports, and it was a tremendous success, really, for folks to, the weather broke in key places. Almost nobody got completely clouded out. And so that's a really nice piece of news. And
Kathy is whining over here.
if someone did get completely clouded out, I'm really sorry for you, but I thought it was awesome. So I hope
Thank
it
you,
inspires
Peter.
a lot of folks. Okay.
Reg and David, VCO. And anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think Reg, I'm just going to bring up a shot of the western horizon on that evening as it was getting dark, and then maybe we can just talk around that.
Sure.
Oh, what happened? Just a second here. Is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So there's quite a number of us. How many people were with us, Reg?
7.
7. Okay. So we got there around probably around, was it around 8 or so, or
Daytime 8 o'clock.
yeah. So we went up, we set up. My job was to try to get a shot of the Dipper and Polaris for Amy, who's going to be talking about the North Star at the Astronomy Day. So I did that. And also I went looking for T Corona Borealis, because that should be firing up sometime between now and September. So I managed to get that, but it didn't turn out very well. So I'm going to have to shoot it again. But I think I know the area fairly well now. And I will be giving a talk probably in the next couple of weeks about the process of maybe observing that. But anyways, this was the evening. It was setting, and Randy kind of said, "Oh, we should see if we can find the comet." Well, unfortunately, the comet is really, really low right now, and I don't know if you can make it out, but it's here's Jupiter right here, and you can kind of make it out here.
Yeah,
it's not very bright,
but that certainly is it.
Yeah, that's definitely it. But you know what was remarkable was you could see the Hyades is here. It's cut off, but there's the Pleiades. Very, very nice. And then down along this region here, I think one of these, I thought might be Mirfac, and I think one of these is Algol, I think, or something like that. Because I remember Cassiopeia being right on the edge here. But yeah, that's what we were looking at as the sun was setting, and it was a beautiful sunset. There were lots of people on the deck. I think the cinephiles were there, so Mike and Randy had a great time. Randy, did you want to talk about that?
Well, I got a couple of pictures out there.
Okay, you want me to leave? I'll leave this. See if I can find where this is. There you go.
Okay, so the treat for me, well, one treat was certainly getting to see Mike Nash at work with his son Zach. He's got such good gear, and he really knows lunar imaging. He's right up there with the best around the world, and so it was really fun seeing it. And it's also interesting. He does not spend a lot of time gathering photons. You know, he does a 1-minute video or something like that, and then he's going to spend 3 hours processing. Anyway, I had the treat of nobody needing to spend a lot of time on our big telescopes. So I guess at about 10 o'clock, and most of the people had left. So it was just what, David,
Brenda,
and me. I think it was just the three of us. But I had over half an hour on the Takahashi to sketch, and it was a real treat. And Reg set it up at what, 360 times magnification, which is just wild for me. And we were all really keen on what do you call it? Theophilus is a rather large crater which was right on the terminator, and Brenda was saying how it looked like it went forever. It was just this beautiful round ring. This was Mike's picture of it, and by the time Mike took it, do you see here there's that little dot in the middle? So that was perfectly black when we first started looking at the moon in the evening. Then the central peak started getting imaged, and then by the time I was sketching, it was a very clear double peak there. So just in the time that we were up there, we could see the moon turn enough that we could see it getting lit. So that was really fun. It was a great evening. We had Susan, who was just interested in everything, and Brenda, she's really knows her constellations now. And it was a very good community up there. So next time there's first of all, get on the Hill Obs list, and you do that by talking to Chris Purse. And next time there is a call to go up to the VCO, this is for all levels. Everybody can have fun up there, and there's lots of gear to play with if you don't bring up your own equipment, and it's just that lovely sense of astronomers doing astronomy together. Go for it, Reg.
well, I just wanted to thank everybody who came up. It was Susan Brady's first time up the hill, so I had a lot of fun showing her the gear, and she was in and out looking through other scopes and that, and she did indeed see that big black crater with the dot in the middle, and I think we had a pretty interesting time, and she got a little bit cold, so we headed off around 10:30, I think it was. Susan, there you are. Do you have any thoughts to say?
Well, I didn't realize how deep the craters were. That was the big thing of the evening for me, was it's actually jaggedy and deep.
Yeah.
And because any pictures I've seen, of course, have been more two-dimensional. So I really enjoyed that, and really amazed at the equipment that you've got up there, and I was fascinated by what everybody was fascinated with, and how you're doing things. So, yeah, I'd be happy to do it again.
Great.
Great.
I got a note from Marjie that she's got some photos.
Okay, we'll give this a go. Share screen. I have Cliff's notes. Share screen. Click on desktop 1. And press share.
Yay.
Ooh.
Ooh.
No, that's my screen. That's my screensaver.
It is Aurora, but must have been in a high building.
Play. Can you see anything?
Donut.
Okay. So, yeah, donut. So I was in Kingston, and I was at the condo of a friend. And I spent my time on her condo balcony. So this is no great photograph, but it is a photograph. And I took it with my point and shoot camera. So that's totality. And actually what I did was I hardly even looked at it. I just aimed it in the direction. Okay, that's one. And that was totality as well.
Ooh, quite a lot of clouds, eh?
Well, interestingly enough, it appeared when you looked through the solar glasses, it looked like wispy clouds, because you can see there was blue sky with wispiness.
Yeah, it wasn't that cloudy, Marjie, because I can see Venus.
Yeah. So actually as the moon was moving off the sun after totality, that's when the clouds were more prominent, and then right after that we had totally blue sky. So it was a good place to be. Kingston was a good place to be.
Great. Okay, and the last speaker on my list is Chris.
Hi there. Well, I did give at least a verbal report, I think, with one picture of my eclipse trip to Colchester Harbor on Lake Erie between Leamington and Windsor, and Colchester Harbor, of course, is the walleye capital of Canada, I learned. Anyway, I actually just had a whole round of activities after the eclipse as well. A couple of days later, I visited the national office, and I had a meeting with Jenna Hines about a couple of things. One of them was about the insurance covering the VCO and keeping NRC on the list. And I know there's been a lot of fretting about that. And she tells me that they haven't renewed the insurance yet, but they will shortly before the current policy expires, and the NRC will continue to be on the insurance certificate that there's been so much hand-wringing about. And And then she also told me about the plan for the GA, which is, I think, coming up on the 4th and 5th of May, or certainly that weekend. And they're going to try and get short films about 3 to 5 minutes on the various center observatories for people to watch. And so I've been beating the bushes for that. I don't know if anybody here was interested in doing that. Okay, David, that's wonderful. Yes, so that, and then yes, I had some national business to discuss, but I don't need to talk to you about that. And I was I also visited Randy Atwood and Betty Robinson, and unfortunately, they did not see the eclipse in spite of their best efforts. They went to Belleville with Randy Bodum, who's a former member of our board and excellent guy, and they were met with cloudy skies, unfortunately. So, and I met them, and then I attended a meeting of the Mississauga Center, which of course was pretty well completely occupied with discussions of the eclipse, and there were various adventures there too. It would be fun to do up a map to see where all the RASC people wound up going. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I've already teased Peter Jedicke about this a little bit, but on the day before the eclipse, the morning before, on the Sunday morning before the eclipse, I found myself in downtown London, Ontario, and wound up being interviewed for the radio. I don't know if they used that interview, but I thought it was funny because I think most of the London Center members had left town by then, and so I was kind of holding the fort for them. But of course, an hour after I did that interview, I left town too. So anyway, I think
there's the link, isn't there, Chris? I mean, we can watch it. It's only a short interview.
Yeah, it's probably there somewhere. I've just been crazy busy. I got back here, last night or something like that. I can't even remember what night it was I got back, and I've just had a million things to do, so I haven't been able to hunt around for that. By the way, I did. One of the things I have done since I got here is that I filmed the eclipse, and I'm not sure unless there's a lot of popular demand for it. I won't show you that film, but I can. I'll put the link up for it. It's on you. I've put it up on YouTube, and there it is. It's on the chat, and you can go there and see that video if you want to see what we saw in the walleye capital of Canada. So
and if Joe is nice, he'll put it on the YouTube table of contents. Is that possible, Joe?
No, I'll put the link in the notes, meeting notes.
Okay, and that's what I have to say. Basically, as we noted earlier on, we have a council meeting a week tomorrow, and I'll send out kind of a draft agenda tonight or tomorrow, and I see there's a lot of things we have to discuss.
And this Thursday at 7:30 is the organization meeting for the International Astronomy Day, and I will send something out about that too. but things seem to be in hand again. That is on May 18, in the day at the museum, in the evening at the Center of the Universe, and everybody is welcome to help out. I'm going to close off. I had lots of stuff, but this has been so many interesting things. It wasn't necessary for me to do much of my prepared stuff, but I do want to show some maps because people have been talking about maps, and I have a series of maps that I think are just delicious. So this one is the percentage occupancy in Airbnb on April 8th. And for some reason, every Airbnb along that swath is full. Interesting. And
Brilliant. Oh, I love that.
here we have, they take a baseline of how much traffic you see in this traffic app, and then you can see how much it dropped during, so they did 10-minute bins. And if I go to, click here, let's see if this works. Skip verification. This should pop it up. Oops, pull it down a touch. So that is the number of people who stop at the highway to watch the eclipse go by. Pretty good, eh?
That's lovely.
Okay. Oh, no. Let's go here. Next page. Yes. So this is again looking at traffic, and this is quite remarkable. Let's go to this page. And oh, go away. I hit escape. I get rid of that. How do I do this?
I think you can't give them.
Or I just don't even try this one. Anyway, it's kind of fun because what you see here is people like Alex getting blocked up during the hours after totality. You can see these orange drops. Oh, look at that. I can do it here. That's how I did it. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. During totality, and these are the number of hours after. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's that one. I just love that picture. Okay. So this is tracking all of the airplanes.
Whoa.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and this one, it goes by pretty fast when we find it. Let's see, where did it go? Where are you? Ah, there we go. So you see them coming together. That was the eclipse, and now they're going home.
Oh, lovely.
Let's do that one again. So they're flying around, and
Glad nobody collided.
there's the eclipse, and you can see it move from Texas up. Did you see that?
They aren't to scale.
You know what? That is so cool. I have to do that one more time. So you're going to see it starting to, the concentration starts in Texas and then it moves up to the east, northeast. There we go. And now you see them fly home.
Wow.
Okay, back to here. So I don't know what sort of people submit observations to inaturalist.org. but that's the difference between April 8th, 2024 and April 8th, 2023. So you can see it there too. And this is the scary one. People asking Google about eye pain.
That'll be a lot, I'm sure.
That's kind of a scary one. I think that's the last one. Yeah, I have a really cool talk about the Haudenosaunee, and that's going to be another day. So, thank you. This has been very entertaining in so many different ways. And so thanks to all the participants and everybody who came. Now, next week, I can't be here. Alex, can I give you the key in case Chris can't come? Okay. And many thanks to Alex for being tech support today, and to Kathy for making us coffee. And we need a host for next week also. Marjie, can you be the host next week?
Sure.
Yay. So Marjie and Alex will be running the Astro Cafe. We only have 5 more before our summer break. So think of items that you would like to present in the whole world of amateur astronomy. And with that,
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh yeah.
Did anybody who stayed in the Victoria area see any of the partial?
There's Brock.
Yeah, because my
No,
wife, like
well,
the day
it was pretty bad.
well, it was just the next
Kirsten
day,
was
my
there.
wife-
I was not good. I got
the
5
day
minutes
after,
to
my wife
consider it.
showed me this photo from Machosa Facebook page, and she said, "Is this real?" And it was somebody had gone to Tower Point, and he's a local photographer, and he had a partial face. And I looked at it, and I said, "Yeah, that'd be about the right amount for Victoria." So that's, I'm sure that's real. It was hazy and cloudy.
It
but
was
you could clearly see.
it was pretty bad on the hill. I would say that occasionally we would see a brightening. I think we may have seen the edge of the sun at points, but never enough to be able to see anything with glasses. So it was very, very dim.
The
I
one from
could see,
Machosa was clear.
I could see a bit of a partial at times in Oak Bay, but it was not the spiritual highlight of my year.
No.
And Esquimalt was quite cloudy, nothing to be seen at all.
Yeah.
On,
Okay,
Christmas
everybody.
Hill, we did get first contact on 3 or 4 partials, not the end of it, but it was just like hunting rather than taking photographs.
I have one thing
Oh,
that's
Jim.
on YouTube. There's a really neat clip taken from the ISS of the shadow traveling across America.
That's dramatic.
Yeah, it's really neat looking.
Sorry.
It's like the maps, only real life.
I just have to illustrate that with the actual picture, which is. Come on, mouse. Or I can do it like this. There we go.
Yeah.
That's from the ISS.
Yes.
Right over New Brunswick. That's for Clayton.
That was a spiritual highlight.
Okay, and with that, I'm actually going to say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you, Randy.